welcome to today's stream. We are back with the MRT Racing team for round 3 of their racing series, and today we are doing a bit of commentary with myself, ArbieG, and we've also got the beautiful and delectable, I think it is a good word for it, Paddy, aka EchoWolf, aka Biddy, a bit screwface. How you doing, Paddy?
Well,
you alright?
What an introduction. I'm okay, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, man, not bad, not bad. I thought I'd introduce you much sooner than last time. I watched a bit of the stream last time, and I had a good hour length kind of monologue before I let you even speak. So, but we are here today. We're racing at Spa. We're going to be doing 14 laps at Spa, as at the moment the guys are out on the track just doing a bit of practice. So how's your week been anyway, Paddy?
Yeah, not bad. Looking forward to another bit of racing with the Monkey Racing team.
Yeah.
On a new circuit. Bit different from last time. So, this is just a private tournament they're doing?
Yeah, I believe it's a series that's
okay.
So they know who their fastest on the track is. So when they put the team forward to, so how's your week been? They can use that. They know who the fastest are on different tracks and stuff. I assume that's what they would be doing it for. I will eventually either A, start a team, or B, join a team at some point. But for today, we're just going to watch and see what these guys do. What is actually my favourite track, actually. Probably not the one that I do the best on, but I just have the most fun on this one. Even though turn 1 is absolute... Well, when you're playing in a public world anyway, turn 1's a bit of a nightmare. The basic rule is the tighter turn 1 is, the harder it is. Because if it's really tight, you've got to slow down more, and people have more a tendency to smash into you. So,
have you had any particularly bad accidents on turn 1?
You know what? It's been a while.
Any of your rage-inducing moments?
No, I haven't had any bad incidents at Spa, actually. Any incidents I had at Spa normally been me pushing too hard and spinning off as opposed to getting hit and stuff like that. So hopefully should have quite a clean race for this evening. But we're currently following Donald, just doing some practice laps. Let's get some information up on the screen. Actually, no, before we do that, shall we look through the standings in the series so far?
Yeah, see where everyone's
series
at.
2. You probably won't be able to see it on your screen because I've put it out on the stream. So if you see it on YouTube, you can see it there. But first place we have Fab with 23 points. At second place we have Kenegelsa with 22 points. Third place we've got Adenilo at 17 points. In joint third places, Donald on 17 points. Mirko with 16. J212 with 11. Garo with 11. Alex with 11. Stowe, I don't know how to say that last name, so I'm not going to embarrass myself, with 8. And then Fadiva with 7. Matt with 5. And this is the one that was at the back of the grid on the last race. Alessio, I want to say, with 3. Looks like all the people have left the room, so there must be an issue.
Just noticed that.
So let's...
Also on my screen, I've just got a frozen track.
Oh, it looks like they're kicking people out that aren't a part of the race.
Well, and so it should be.
Definitely. So it looks like they're going to be starting up the qualification in 2 minutes. So we'll have a look and see who's part of this and what it is. I think it's because they just do a public lobby and they're just trying to get rid of the stragglers who have come in and joined for themselves. But let's go back to the spectator screen. Let's flick through some of the people on the field. And I've realised I've left the ranking on the page. Forgot to take that down. Professional outfit here. We're currently with Matt. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, well, that's the last time we did this. We had a pretty close race in the end, didn't we?
We did.
A couple weeks ago.
We did. It was a very close race, and I remember it was pipped just at the very, very end of the race. I remember it was J212 who was leading quite a lot of the race, and I believe it was Fab who just sort of stole it at the end. It could very well be the other way around. From my memory's not great. I should have probably refreshed.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. I think it was Fab coming in right at the end on the last lap to take the victory.
Yeah, to steal it. Alistair prefers a Mr. McScrewface, so it's what the
we
people
have to
want.
give the people what they want.
Well, that's fair. People are very demanding.
So needy.
I know. I'm just going to get my keyboard shortcuts up again because I don't fully remember what they are. I know you use numbers to skip across the people. Let's press F11 and show the racing information up. So we've just got a couple of people out in a minute. Got a Koenig and Matt out just doing a bit of warm-up prior to the race. Don't know how many people we're going to... Oh, and they're just changing up some of the settings now to make it a practice qualifier and a race. So it's just reset the room. So give it just a moment, guys. Oh. And let's just go back. And so yeah, just doing the final adjustments before they start off the race. So yeah, Spa, I've really enjoyed this this track. When you're doing this track, you go down this really nice long straight, really nice, really hard to hit right. It's actually really hard, but you can actually get through this flat out. In most cars, where's hood view? That is K. There we go. And to get the player information, car information is F10. There we go. So yeah, this nice long straight going down here. So everyone is racing in BMWs today, Group 3 BMW M4s, all with a front rear drivetrain, and everyone is using racing soft tyres, so be interesting to see what happens with strategies and stuff. With pits, looks like it's going to be a one pit race. I'd certainly, if it was me racing it, I'd race it as a one pit race, but we'll see. We had the person we're on board with at the minute, Koenig Elsa, he did the 2-pit strategy last time, and it looks like the qualifier has just been triggered, so we'll see if we get away to a clean start. Oh, and
Nice.
Mad skills.
So this car, is it one that you've used before? What do you,
I've used a similar. I've used the GT4, so a slightly slower version of it.
Okay.
We've used, so it looks like qualifying. Let's see if everyone gets away. So we've got 7 people racing today. It looks like everyone's able to get away all right. And let's just go on board with somebody else. So we're going to go on board with Mirko. And this is just the outlap at the minute. So we're not actually watching what people are doing. People are just going to try and find their track position. Looks like they're actually trading a lot of paint 1 and 2. Racing very close to each other. Just getting... I mean, I personally don't do this on the outlap, because I try and take the outlap as easy as I can to conserve the tyres. Because especially when you're on the soft tyres, where one lap, because you've got these multipliers on tyres, where one lap, even though it's only one lap, they've put on multipliers, so it's actually equal to about 7 laps. So if you hammer it on your outlap, it's the same as hammering it for 7 laps and then trying to go as fast as possible. You can hear this guy here, you know, you can hear the car sliding, skidding. I try and avoid it as much as I can on my outlap, so my tyres are as fresh as they can be for my fast lap.
Rob's tyres always fresh.
Yep. So we're going to go to hood view. Although you do get the rear view mirror. Oh, yeah, I'll use a chase view. So we're going to watch... Who shall we watch? Who on that grid do you want to watch do the first lap?
Let's go and see Fab. Our last winner.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to say. The last race leader. We'll see how he does with this track, and we'll and I'll see if I can provide a little bit of commentary on the kind of braking zones and stuff, and whether it's kind of similar to what I would use, or whether or not they're you know, going forward slightly different approaches, which is each driver would have a slightly different approach. So we're coming around now to the last few turns. It looks like Fab's putting himself in a great place here. This is what you want when you come into the last few turns of the qualifying. You want a nice big gap in front of you and a nice big gap behind you. So if you do have someone who is a fast runner behind you, they're not going to get behind you and try and overtake, which could slow you down. And conversely, if you've got some people slower in front of you, they're not going to get caught up with you. So he's coming down now to the final straight, and he's going to be starting off his lap. So as I said, coming into turn 1 here, quite a slow turn. You've got to sort of brake around the 50 marker and then swing yourself down. He goes all the way down to first there. I normally only drift it down to second, but it's interesting it's gone to first. Now from here you should be able to go full throttle right until the very, very end, even up this uphill bit, which can get a bit sketchy. Let's see if he goes for full throttle, or does he come off? No, he's gone for the full throttle approach. It can be a bit hard to keep it in. Yeah, it can be hard to keep it on control, but you keep so much space if you can keep that full throttle on. And he looks like he has nailed that absolutely spot on.
So what are the key parts of the track then to look out for?
There,
Obviously
actually.
going through there as fast as you can. But
Yeah,
then
that is a
where
real.
else?
I mean, turn one. I mean, basically most tracks, any turn that's got a long straight after it really are your key turns, because you know, the faster exit speed, you know, you manage to gain time for the entirety of the preceding straight. So that's the way when I come to a new track, I look for the turns that have got the longest straights on them first, and then I put my focus on improving on those turns. That's where you'll get the most gains, because you can like save times in a lot of turns, you know, shave a few attempts off here and there. But when you take a better line through a turn that's got a long straight, you know, you could potentially half a second to a full second you could save. He drifted a little wide there, caught a little bit of the I want to say artificial surface, but all surfaces are artificial if you think about it. So yeah, he slipped off a little bit there, would have lost a little bit of grip, but it didn't seem to slip out or anything. That's a real tricky bit of the track where you can slip out. And it looks like he's putting a good performance in here, so he should be able to go flat out through this turn here. He's had to come off the accelerator just a tiny bit, which is probably a good call, because you can see how close he got over to the green part of the tarmac.
Shaking about there.
Yeah, definitely he's fighting to hold this BMW together. And this turn as well, again, it doesn't feel like it when you first do it, but you can do this flat out as well if you come out really wide like he has done there. And he's got that absolutely spot on. So we'll see how this does in terms of lap time, as the first few laps are starting to come in now around about the 2:18 marker. So let's see if this if Fab can manage to top a 2:18, and then we'll jump on board with somebody else. So 2:17.6, so definitely the best time so far. So we're going to jump over and look at lap 2 for somebody else. Call it out, Paddy. Who do you fancy?
Let's go see Donald.
Donald, he's come around to finish his first lap now. You can tell with time already, it's going to be a little bit behind, definitely the track pace. He's put himself into 5th place with a 2:23, so you can tell that's you know, a good 5 seconds off the track lead pace. So must have been either a track he's not too familiar with, or even might just be a case that he just had a bit of a bad lap. Is actually Donald finds himself in last place by a good clear 2 seconds. So let's see if he get a better lap through here. So let's see if he goes flat out through here, which he dropped off the accelerator a tiny bit and drifted a little bit to the left, and he might pick himself up a penalty through that, maybe. It can be a little bit strict through there, but no, it looks like he's come through all right. Now, the one thing I do notice about Donald in comparison to, you know, Fab or whoever we were looking at before, is Donald's got the traction control on his car, which you can tell by the sort of white light that's underneath the red, underneath the revs. That's keep turning red. That basically means he's got an assist that helps stop his car from sliding out, which is all, you know, it's really helpful to have on. But the problem you get with it is it really can slow you down. So it's interesting that there are a few races where I've had to turn it on, especially if it's not a race I feel too comfortable on. But in general, you want to be trying to race without any traction control, and this is possibly where you might be losing a lot of time.
We can see from the top there that J212 taking the fastest time.
Yeah, definitely. We'll quickly flick over to him and just check what that time was. So it was a 2:17.5. So it's only 1.5 tenths faster than Fab. So Fab might be able to bring that back. But we'll jump back on board now with Donald and see if he can climb himself up and just, at the very least, beat his 2:23. If not, sort of, if he can break through the 2:21 barrier, then he's going to be. So you can see he's 3.5 seconds ahead on his previous lap. So this should leave him definitely be able to climb up a couple of places. You know, flatten out at 2:20. So let's see how he gets on coming through the last turn. Again, he manages to get through there flat out. I think he did. I think he geared up just before it, which normally I'd keep my grip by keeping the gear down. And he does brake a little inefficiently through there, and managed to miss both the apexes. But main thing is he's got through, and let's see if he can just at least put in a better lap than last time, which it looks like he's got with 2:19. Pushed himself up a place and pushed Matt down into last place. So we're going to jump on board now. We're going to go to Mirko. Mirko's coming down the straight just after ArbieG. Mirko's running a 2:18.1 as his best lap so far. So you've got about 2 minutes left of this qualifying session, so people are going to be really trying to get in their last couple of laps. Personally, if this was me, something I'm doing quite a lot is, again, tyres is a really important part. Something I've been doing a lot in my qualifying session is literally running a fast lap and then coming straight back into pit, swap tyres, and go out and do another fast lap. And you yeah, you're not doing as many overall laps, but you get 2 really, really good chances to set the fastest time that you can possibly do, and that's kind of the strategy I've been applying to a lot of my qualifiers, which I haven't seen anyone do this on this qualification. So interesting. So we have Mirko coming down there. Let's stay in 4th gear for maybe a little bit too long. Would have lost a little bit of power on this straight. And dropping right down to 2nd. Didn't do much trail braking through that turn, which you get the maximum time if you can trail brake a little bit into that turn, which he just sort of did a flat brake. And see there, he did a bit of trail braking. Hit that turn much better. But so he's actually 4 seconds above his in front of his best. So we're going to jump on board to somebody else. Who do you want to go with, Paddy?
Should we see if Elsa can
pull us up? Koenig Elsa. He looks like he's coming to the end of his lap, and he's going to have time to get one more lap after this one as well. Not far off the pace here. 2:17.7 is his best time so far. And let's see if he can make an improvement on that.
I don't think it's going to be this one.
2:17.7. So he did actually slightly improve, very, very slightly, by about half a tenth. Not enough though to climb a position, still keeping him 3rd. But we'll stay on board with Koenig and Elsa. I don't know how to say his name. Do you want to have a go at it? Koenig in Elsa. Is that the best?
Elsa? I think so. I think you
close.
nailed it.
I'm close enough. So he's coming through now, and let's see. Very, very wavy through there. He's probably going to pick up himself. Surely he's going to pick himself up a penalty on that one. I don't know what settings they've got on, but yeah, there's the penalty there. It is. Yeah, like I said, that turn's really strict. If you get your 4 tyres over the white lines, you absolutely will receive a penalty. So I know how the rules work when we're playing on the FI and the GT Sport in terms of penalties. The rules are slightly different when in these private matches. You can kind of manually work down your penalty if you purposely slow yourself down in these private worlds, which I kind of actually prefer the system in the main game where it's forced upon you at certain points in the track. Because it actually feels like a bit more of a punishment. But I assume when you're in a racing team, you've kind of got a little bit of trust anyway in terms of, you know, you've got a choice whether or not you're part of the team or not. And if you're general join team and they're all full of dirty races, then you can just leave them. You know what I mean?
Just go elsewhere.
Just go elsewhere in your life. Move on. Move on. So Koenig Elsa is running a decent lap here, but obviously it's not gonna make a scratch of difference with the penalty he's got lingering over. So we're going to go on board with Garou, who's actually finished. I think most people may have finished their sessions at the minute. We'll go back on with Fab, who is at least running a lap that we can keep an eye on. He's currently in 1st place. So you know what? Even though I just said that, it's actually pointless watching him because the only thing he can do is get more than 1st place. Let's go to Matt. Matt, who's running a lap with a 1.4 gap between him and Donald. His best lap so far is a 2:20.6, so he's looking to grind that down now. He's been a little bit inconsistent in his qualifications, times a little bit all over the place. 2:21, 2:20 and a 2:24. He runs a little wide there. Now, at this pace on this lap, he's only like literally about half a tenth down on his best, so he could possibly pull something in here. I don't know why I got the finish screen appear in front of me there. I don't know if he's... assume he's allowed to finish off his lap. He runs really wide there, and yeah, that's going to be a track penalty. And just did not get that turn right. It looks like he's just going to give it up as a good one and let Donald come through, as he'd already messed up his lap. So good on the sportsmanship there, because he'd realised he'd already messed up his lap and perhaps didn't want to hold up Donald setting his lap. And that is the end of the qualification. I believe it's the end of the qualification altogether. And is it this year? Yeah. So we want race. There we go. So looks like we've got a very similar grid to last time, with Fab, J212 and Koenig Elsa taking the top 3 places on the grid. And then following that, we've got Mirko, Garou, Donald, and then Matt. Alistair's putting his money on Elsa for this race, so we'll hold him to that.
We will take his money. It's a real mix of driver ratings there, and a mix of safety ratings too. But
Yeah, a nice mixture. I mean, some people care about it, some people don't. You know what I mean? You can have a bad day and then tell you know what, I'm not playing this anymore. You know, I'll just go in the private games. I think that's what happens with a lot of people. We're away now to grid start. And it looks like Fab's got away to a really, really good start. JT12 not so well. We're allowing Mirko to move up one position. And Fab has managed to hold his place going through the first turn. It looks like we've got a spanner a bit further back there from Garu. Unfortunately, he's ended up back in the pit lane somehow. And unfortunately, he's going to drop himself, so he's going to have to work really, really hard to come back. As we jump on board with Mirko in second place, who's getting attacked from JT12, even on this straight. JT12 is probably going to be in the favourite to take this here, because he's got this nice long straight afterwards, and that means he's going to be able to get this slipstream through all of this turn. So hopefully he's going to take the inside line. If I was Mirko, I would have gone on the inside earlier and made it, so I was probably favourite to take the turn. And you can see Fab losing a little bit of grip there, would have lost a little bit of time. And we'll stay on board with JT12 just for the meantime, as we are still looking at the top three. Looks like Koenigsegg slipped down outside of the podium positions. He's going to have to work to try and get himself a backup. With JT12 still with Mirko sat right behind him, so these two might be having a bit of scrap for the next few laps. But it looks like the field is starting to spread out now, with Garu unfortunately trailing at the back there after his spin out on the first turn.
So it looks like currently the biggest fight is between second and third.
Yeah, it looks like it at the moment. Yeah, Fab's still sitting on that lead quite nicely, 1.4 seconds. It looks like the main fight going, as you say, is between first and third, Mirko and JT12. It's actually going to be interesting going through this bit, because this is the next real long street. He's actually taken himself wide and he can't quite get off the green area, which you lose a bunch of grip on. So he had his opportunity to catch there, and unfortunately wasn't able to take it.
I suppose it's always nice if you're in first and the two people behind you are having a nice little fight, right? That'll slow them down.
Yeah, definitely.
Give you some breathing room.
Definitely. Like, sometimes you got to make a choice. Like a JT12 in front of here, he's got a choice to make when he's got this person close behind him. Is, do you go super defensive and possibly lose time to Fab in front of you, but also have a bit more assurance that you're going to hold your second place, or do you, for the sake of actually trying to catch up with Fab, work in collaboration with third place, using each other for slipstream, and not trying to defend, bearing in mind you've got a 14 lap race in front of you, and really if you can just keep together, you can then start to make your moves to the last 3 or 4 sort of laps, and then start to shift over to a more defensive style. So that you see what JT12 is doing, what I said here, he's put himself on the inside to make it really hard for the overtake.
Yeah,
you see there. So any advice I give to anyone is, if you've got someone attacking you and you're matched in terms of pace, and it looks like they're gonna at least be able to edge on either side of you, head on the inside and take the inside line. You're much more likely to be able to take the corner. But obviously, in conversely to what I just said as well, is that you're also you can see now he's lost a bit of time to Fab in front of him. So let's go over now and let's flip our view over. And is it F?
Got Elsa's now coming up behind as well.
Yeah, so Elsa's really starting to push up as well. Yeah, so he's actually number 4 is that? He's actually pushing up on Mirko now. So Mirko having to sit back on JT12's defensive driving has given that to chance, and we've actually got a bit of fighting happening here between 5th and 6th as well, between Matt and Donald, as Donald is just sat behind Matt here at the moment. And he's made a little bit of contact there, a little bit naughty. Needs to be a little bit more careful, especially as you're going through the apex of a turn. If you're hitting someone on an apex of the turn, that's your fault. It's not the person in front of you's fault. And it looks like Matt did not do so well there. He tried to weave around. I don't know what he was trying to do, but
maybe trying to defend a position and then
I think I've said this a few times. I don't understand why people weave around so much. You choose a line, you go, I'm going to go over on the left side or the middle or the right of the track, and you stick to it. And you know, end of the day, it's a race. You need to be going as fast as you can, and the more you're weaving around, that you're not going as fast as you can. You know, it's the basic principle.
Yeah, you're giving.
So it looks like Koenigsegg is going up on the outside here of Mirko, and he's it's hard to overtake on the outside. And it's been, I don't know if he was shunted there or he just didn't have enough room on the track. A little bit of both perhaps, and he's had to drop back, and now he's had to sit in behind Mirko. But again, this sitting in behind someone through this bit isn't that bad. On this track, I try not to overtake people on turn 1, because even if you do overtake someone, they're going to be right in your slipstream going up through here. So when I'm doing this track, I actually, even if I do have a chance to overtake on turn 1, I avoid it and then sort of sit behind them as close as I can going up through El Rouge, and then overtake them here where you've got a lot of track in front of you until you hit your next big long straight, in order to build that a gap up. But we're looking, Koenigsegg here, he's just still sitting behind Mirko, trying to pull up that gap. Mirko himself trying to pull up against a J212. There we go, F11. Getting used to these controls, I tell you. So O'Donnell's got a 2-second gap behind, so looks like it's going to be quite hard. It looks like Koenigsegg is going for the attack there on the inside of the favour, but it looks like he won't have the pace to be able to get through. And is he going to try and look up on his inside here? Certainly what I'd be trying to do, and it looks like he probably doesn't have the pace to be able to do that. So it is quite a good battle now between 3rd and 4th, but again, just like I was saying before, Paddy doing this is given J212 now has a one, you know, just
lovely breathing room, and can just
can now start focusing on either trying to catch up with Fab, who's now got a massive 5-second lead. So he's really is the favourite to take this race. With how things stand, providing he doesn't do any huge mistakes and keeps a nice and consistent pace up. But J212 is probably in the more vulnerable place with a 1 second. Koenigsegg also gets flung off well wide there. And is he going to get a track penalty? He's actually still managed to take the position, and Mirko comes back on the inside. It actually has the favourable track position, and Koenigsegg is really having a scrappy fight here, as he still manages to hold on to position. He actually gets a bit of slip, and Mirko now sat right behind him. And as I said, this is what you want to be doing. If this was me, I would not try and overtake here. He's sitting on the inside, might just be, again, just trying to avoid making contact, although he makes it anyway. But here is where I'd make sure I was nice and up and tight and close up to Koenigsegg to ensure that I'm going to have the fastest speed, because we're all racing in the same car, so it's not like one car type's going to have the advantage over another. And providing get this turn right, which it was quite shaky, but he got it right, and you can sit in the slipstream. He is now odds-on favourite, to taking this. So he's going to go up on the outside, and Koenigsegg is going to squeeze that gap. You can only do it so much. You can't just squeeze and force him off the track. But you can see the speed difference now that he's got just by getting the better exit. But Koenigsegg has played this really well and stuck on his inside and tried to squeeze him to his outside of the track as he can, but maybe pushing too hard, and Mirko has managed to take the position really well. See, and there's actually Donald now who's getting pushing up.
You can really see the impact of defensive racing against each other. Really lets people behind you just pull that space back.
This is it. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes in races I've actually purposely let people go past because I don't want to get caught in a 4 to 5 lap a battle that's just going to slow you both down. I'd rather let him go past. I'll sit behind him, and I'll use his speed to keep my speed up, and then at the end of the race I'll try and make my move. This is if I'm racing with someone who's clearly matching me pace for pace. If it's someone who's perhaps I know I've got the pace on them in terms of I'm putting in the better lap times, and I'm going to try and get the overtake and get past them and try and build up a gap because I don't want to get held up. But if it's someone that that you're racing against pace for pace, then you need to have a think a bit more long term about the race. Because
do you think that some of the action happening in front of us, they're a little bit too eager to get past one another? And
Definitely. I mean, you can definitely.
Key parts of the track.
You see this a lot on online racing as it is. That obviously you don't have the same risk factor as you do in real cars. So you get people making lunges and making choices they probably wouldn't make if it was a real car. So I'm actually genuinely surprised at times how aggressive some of these cars in this team are, because then they're all supposed to be in a team and trying to get better at racing. They can be really, really aggressive. So I don't know whether it's like you got a few people are racing on pads. I know there's a couple of people racing on pads, so I know you can't be as precise on the pad as you can on the wheel. So I imagine it plays a part of it, and not as that. It's all down to experience and skill as well. You know, the more that you do it, the better that you get it. I can't speak to how experienced these people are. So J212, he's pulled up. Look at that gap now with J212, a big 4.5 second gap between him and third now. So he's really managed to secure that third place. And Fab in the same position. He's actually lost a little bit of time, Fab, as to J212. So that's actually quite interesting. That maybe if J212 can keep up that pace, he's going to eventually grind that time down, and perhaps might even make this race a bit more interesting at the top. But we're going to slip back down, and we're going to have a look at 6th and 7th, because it looks like there's a bit of a race turning up here now with Matt, who's got himself got a bit of a penalty, but like I said, penalties aren't that impactful in these private races. He's got himself around about a 2-second gap he needs to work on between himself and Garou in front. And it'll be interesting to see how he manages to get through. Oh, that's it. Currently running a best lap time of 2:21, so definitely a bit behind in the race pace. And as I said, using the TCS as well, it's probably holding him up quite a lot in terms of the fastest pace he can pull off in a race.
I think there was a little bit of action happening between 4 and 5. I'm not sure there. We had the map up.
There we go. So 4 and 5, yeah, it's still quite a nice tight pack, really, from 4 up to 3. And it looks like J212's actually must have had a little bit of mistake, because he's now 6 seconds behind Fab, and just over 3 seconds in front of Koenigelser. Koenigelser sitting in third, so he must have gone ahead of Mirko at some point. Actually managed to build up his own gap at. Building up his own gap at the minute, as we're currently in lap 5 of this race, so might be looking at people starting to think about their pit stop soon. I imagine a lot of them are going to be happening on lap 7, but you might have a couple of early pitters. The good thing about if you do an early pit now means for the next 2 laps you're on completely fresh tyres, and everyone else is on really worn tyres, which gives you obviously a massive advantage in terms of speed. So there is a good reason why you would pit in early, but obviously the converse part of that is obviously throughout the entirety of the rest of the race, everyone's going to be 2 laps fresher than you in terms of their tyres. So for the rest of the race in general, people are going to have slightly faster pace than you. So it's all a bit of a trade-off, really. Like, do you want 2 laps of being a lot faster than everybody else, with the trade-off that you'll have the rest of the race being slightly slower than everybody else? So it is interesting, some of the strategies. I very rarely I pit early, I have to admit. I don't like the feeling of getting caught up behind traffic, and you're more likely to get in traffic the earlier that you pit, because obviously early in the race the closer cars are to each other.
4 and 5 are all over each other at the minute.
Yeah, it looks like 4 and 5. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'll go and jump on board with Mirko, who's actually trading paint side by side there with Donald. And Donald just taking a little bit of trading paint on the side, has had to slip back behind him, and Mirko now having to defend his position as he takes himself quite easily and slowly through these turns. Not many overtaking opportunities through this sort of central part of the track, so really if I was Donald right now, I'd just be thinking about trying again and keep up as close as I can to Mirko without obviously causing any kind of incidents, and then waiting for the more. See, here's a mistake he could pounce on, and possibly Mirko's going to have to stay on the inside, but he actually doesn't. See, now I'd be dipping on that inside and seeing if I can just hold the track or position over him. But at the moment it looks like Mirko's managed to hold it, but he has got a long bit of track coming up here, which again, not many braking points or turns coming through here, so this will be the interesting part to see if Donald can make something happen through here as he sits up through here. And I'm just going to get the guy to see what he's doing in terms of his footwork, so you can see the effect slipstream has really massive. He actually made a little bit of contact and managed to lose a little bit of his own speed there, which is unfortunate, because he probably could have made this overtake happen before he got to this turn here by the looks of it. And now he's going to have to wait for opportunity on this one. Looks like Mirko's going to stay on that inside. You break around the 150 marker and come and hit this apex. Looks like Donald's got this overtake in the bag, I reckon. Yeah, it looks like he's managed to get in front of him. Mirko's come up alongside him, and we'll see who comes out the better off in turn 1. Mirko just sort of coming across, not being aware, maybe, or maybe doing it on purpose, I can't tell. Looks like it's going to be really close going up through Eau Rouge. We'll get the race information up. So it's a really close race. It looks like Mirko's in the favourable place here, and Donald's going to have to slip in behind, but again, favourable place to a certain extent, because now Donald is now behind him through this log straight, which again, as we know, the slipstream has a massive impact. He actually has managed to fall behind him quite a bit here, so he's not going to be able to take advantage of the slipstream. It'll probably pull him up a little bit, but not enough to make a move. So let's move over to somebody else now. We've been following. Oh, actually, just before we do that, looks like Donald would have had his chance there if he had managed to get through that part all right. But we're going to go back up and just look at the race between 6 and 7, which I believe is non-existent. So really, the only racing that's happening really is between 3 and 4. It looks like between 3 and 4 at the minute. Or was it 2 and 3? Oh, 2 and 3. Apologies. That's where the race is going. It looks like Koenig Elsa, and I missed it completely, managed to catch up to J212 and has actually managed to take the position from him. Completely.
Was that an accident, or have we missed a pit stop? What is it?
Yeah, it must. I could have been a pit stop. It could have well been a pit. I have to admit, I was watching quite intently the fight happening behind them, so I don't actually know which one happened. Whether it's the case that J212's went out for that early pit and is on the fresher tyres. We'll see what happens at the end of this lap and see if Koenig Elsa goes in.
The car information. We can maybe see if there's any tyre wear.
That is a great idea, Paddy. So no, he's still got.
So no, he must have had some sort of mistake.
Yeah, some sort of slip. You're absolutely right. I mean, I don't believe we've got anyone yet who's gone to pit as I flip through all the cars, and they still have a bit of tyre wear, definitely looking like. And we'll see how many people come into pit for this lap, and we'll go into Fab now. Fab is still going to stay out for one more lap. Koenig Elsa.
A 9-second lead is really.
Yeah, Koenig Elsa is going to come in for his pit. And it looks like J212 is going to carry on and see if he can put in a really, really good lap and perhaps just find a way to overtake Koenig Elsa without actually having to overtake him. This is probably the right call. I would have done the same, even if I was planning to go in on lap 7. I would have gone in and had the pit just to see if I can perhaps just use the fact that I've got some empty track in front of me to really, really, really push out some time. But you see most of the racers have gone in. Everyone really, apart from these two at the front, really, J212 and Fab, have gone in to change up and refuel, because you look at those fueling percentages there, everyone's sort of a few people getting down to 14 or so, 16. You can tell a few people being a bit more fuel efficient. Donald, for example, managed to be a bit more fuel efficient. That can be really important in a race as well, because again, you're spending less time having to refuel up and can make your actual pit time much smaller compared to other people's if you can be a lot more fuel efficient.
What are some of the things that go into doing that? When you're out there racing?
Short shifting is probably the biggest one. Short shifting, so basically, instead of waiting for your ref counter to go over the top, shift up when it's either half full or 3/4 full, depending on how much you want to save. That is by and way the best way to save fuel in this game. There is another way which you can use this thing called a fuel map, where you sort of change the settings of the car whilst you're driving around to be more focused on efficiency or more focused on power. The only thing is, it's like with that, I don't know how true this is to life, but with that, like, the power loss you get is not worth the fuel that you save in most cases. That you could, you'll be saving a little bit of fuel each lap, but you're losing 2 seconds of power per lap. So I know the proper pros, what they do is they actually change it on the fly depending on what part of the track they are. So if you're in a slipstream, you switch your fuel efficiency so you're not actually using much power, because you're getting all the power by the fact you're in a slipstream and things like that. So
okay,
yeah, it's one of those things where I've got enough to think about that, where I just sort of have it set to the most sort of powerful. Then I use you get a lot more fuel efficiency out of your gearing. But it looks like Fab has now gone into pit now, and he's going to come in and change his tyres. It's going to be interesting to see now what J212 does. He's really got a pit in, I would imagine, and it looks like he is. So let's have a look at Koenig Elsa and see if he's got enough about him to pull up and get back in front of Fab. And you can see what I mean there, why Fab might have done the right thing, because he's got a massive, massive, massive gap. I don't know if Elsa did something wrong coming out of there, or whether the pit time is just ridiculously long. Because you can see, Fab has now just done his refueling. J212 still waiting to refuel, so he should be refueling in a minute. You can see his fuel going up now, and now he's going to be coming out. It's going to be really interesting to see. He looks like he's come out in front, so it's worked out really well for J212, really, really well. That he was sat, behind Koenig Elsa. Koenig Elsa went in. J212 put in a really, really, really strong lap and managed to come out in front of Koenig Elsa. It could have as well been the fact that he could have been more efficient on his fuel as well. So meaning that he had actually less time in the pit as well.
Yeah, I think maybe we had something wrong there with the time delta as people were in the pit lane, because I don't think there was ever a 30-second gap.
Yeah, there was a 30.
So.
Sometimes it can do that.
Okay.
So it looks like we've got.
I do have a question from Al, which actually relates to this. He's asking. He's seen a lot of little collisions without penalties, and I was actually thinking the same thing earlier. Is that just the settings they've got this set on, or is
it could be the settings they've got it set on. It can. I mean, there is a little bit of leniency anyway when it comes to this, because sometimes when it is like two cars quite similar in pace trading a bit of paint, it'll be fine with it. But it's when it's those knocks that knock someone off a track, that's when the penalties normally come in. But it looks like Donald run really wide there and finds himself on the grass, so he's going to fall away from that pace. So we're going to go back on board now with Koenigelser, who's still got a 1.2 seconds on J212. So it's going to be. This is going to be really the main race, the main fight of the race. It looks like. Certainly Fab has got this on the bag now with a good, almost 10-second gap on J212. But Koenigelser is really Koenigelser and J212 is the battle that we want to be keeping an eye on, and potentially actually stuff going on now between 4th, 5th, and 6th now with Garu not too far away from Donald, only about 2.5 seconds away. Donald himself, with a similar sort of gap between himself and Mirko, so we've got like a nice little train on the way here, which could potentially go into a battle either way. But it looks
2
like
and 3 are getting close. Yeah, you just get to them.
Got them over. So we're coming in now we're in the sort of last part of the race now. We've got 4 laps now in front of us. Well, I suppose it's technically a 5 lap if you include the last lap. Always gets a bit weird when I try to count laps. Basic maths. So yeah, Koenigelser at the minute still with a sort of a 1.1 second lap, 1.1 second time difference between himself and J212. So not enough to be inside the slipstream. So really, what he needs to be trying to do is trying to get that.
I think he's picked up a penalty. Half a second.
Oh, has he picked himself up a second? It must have been a bit of a corner cut. Like I said, you can see he's already managed to wind a bit of time down because we're not pros. Anywhere where you're not going through at the most efficient pace, you'll wind your penalty down anyway. So like I said, the penalties don't really get felt as much in this mode. Okay. Because you kind of like do it because you're not a pro racer anyway. That you always lose a bit. See there, he lost 1/10 of his penalty because he didn't get the most efficient braking through that turn. So they must have changed the system for it assumes
what would the best possible way you've taken this corner.
Yeah, I don't know if it
adjust for it.
I don't know if it's based on your previous best time or something. I don't know if it's got something to do with that or whether it's based on like an average or something. I don't know. It's got to be some average. It can't be based on the best person in the world. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. How much? Like how high are the levels of this? Like how? You know how you're currently a B class racer, right?
Yeah, I mean, I
assume it goes up to S, but
these two, there's basically it goes S, A plus, A, B, C, D, E, and these two at the front, I believe, are A class. So Fab and J212 are A class racers. Look, things like everyone else, I think, are in sort of drifting between B, C, and D, but it might not be reflective of their driving ability. It might just be a fact that they just haven't engaged much in the GT Sport mode. You know what I mean? Because I know a lot of people do the pro. It looks like Koenigelser might be trying to develop something here as he's now pulled up. You see how much he's pulled up now. He's within half a second, which this is not the place you want someone right behind you coming up through Eau Rouge. So Koenigelser, if he wants to take this race, he needs to keep up as tight as he can going through turn 1. Not try and overtake through turn 1, but just keep up as tight as he can. So let's jump on board with him in the hood view and let's get that old racing details up and let's see. So weird that on this view you can't have both of these screens up at the same time, which normally you can. So because I like to have a view of the gap, but he's had to come off the accelerator there, and you can see that's lost him a bit of pace. So unfortunately, again, missed the opportunity to be able to pull some. This is the part of the track where you really can pull up some space and can make the best opportunities for overtaking without having to try and a dive up on the inside or someone through a corner, that you can actually get an overtake on the straight itself. So for me, that's where I try and focus a lot on my overtakes when I'm racing at Spa. But JT12 sort of maybe feeling the pressure of having a Koenigsegg right behind him, because he's sort of struggling to find the consistency on the track, and I see him slipping out quite a lot. We'll slip back and see how things are developing between 4, 5 and 6. Again, Mirko slightly increased that gap with Donald behind him, now gone to about 3 seconds. Donald himself, again, the same sort of thing, 3-second gaps either side. And Garu, again, these cars are nice and spaced out, so I don't expect, unless there's any major slip outs or major difference, you probably don't expect much else happen to here. So we're going to go back on board with the only fight that's happening really in this race, Koenigsegg and JT12. I like his a livery. It's got the Colonel on the side, which is actually starting to make me hungry. Damn you, marketing!
Damn you! Stop working.
I was quite happy. I made a Whiskers a cat food one.
Yeah, I saw that. How does the sponsorship stuff work? Is it just, can you just pick whoever you fancy?
Yeah, like the people upload like, you know, decals and stuff, like a community made one. So I just go in and grab a few logos. Looks like he's gonna try and make an overtake there. So again, if I was Koenigsegg trying to advise, if I was his pit crew, if there's such a thing, I'll be advising him, don't try and overtake in that bit. Don't try and overtake turn 1. Wait until you're at El Rouge and get that gap right. You know what I mean? Like now, because he's tried to make that overtake, means that his gap is actually around about 1 second, which means he doesn't have the room to be able to do the slipstream. He's got to rely on getting a better line through this turn, which from what I've seen in the previous few laps, he's not getting a better line, and he needs to know that he's not getting a better line through here. He's actually having to come off the accelerator.
Yeah.
Where JT12,
you know, throughout this entire race, the main problem for us has just been a bit too anxious to get past people and not waiting for the opportune place on the track to really
definitely. You got to think more. I think one problem people get is they think too short term, and you need to think about not just the next turn you're coming up to, but the next 3 or 4. You know, and really start to make choices about what you're going to do. Because you might be behind someone who's a bit slower, and you might lose one or two attempts, but you'll lose 2 or 3 seconds if you're trying to make an overtake in a place where you can't. You know what I mean? So it looks like he's gonna maybe have another go through
another
here.
Chance here, yeah,
maybe. See if you get a more efficient line through there. It looks like I'm gonna go jump back in a minute to Garu and to Donald, because it looks like that gap's tightened up. But we'll just have a look through this little turn here and see if he gets through all right. So we are gonna, if I can, I'm gonna jump back to Garu, who's pushed up a little bit here on Donald. Do you remember last time we were here, they were at a 3-second gap, and they had to really push down to 1.3 seconds. So Garu might be able to make something happen at the end if you can really start to capitalise on this, and maybe just sort of put in some more of his better laps. But let's go back now. It looks like Koenigsegg.
They were side by side.
Almost side by side, but it looks like he's definitely got him on the slipstream here. I'd be going on the outside, but he made contact again. He needs to be avoiding that contact because he's missing all the opportunities to be able to overtake. And you could say, well, maybe it's a JT12 weaving over the place. I don't see him weaving all over the place. He's just sort of,
like it.
He's losing a little bit of grip, as you'd expect someone would do towards the end of the race. But see, now this is his chance here. He's got a 0.3 second gap. So he needs to get this turn 1 right. If he gets this turn 1 right, he should be in a great place to. And again, he's not quite got that right, and he's lost his time again. 0.7, 0.8. Again, once you start drifting out that sort of outside of 0.6, you are not getting slipstream anymore. And he needs to, because he's not as good at his turn as JT12, and he's going to miss his opportunity. So he's only going to have one more opportunity to take that turn again, as we're in the second to last lap now. Still nothing really happening at the back with that group at the back. Still a 1.5 second gap here between Garu and Donald. So it's going to take Garu, going to have to really, really push to try and drive that gap down, or we're waiting for someone to do something wrong. But we'll go back now on to Koenigsegg. And again, I can see JT12 holding this. He's had, Koenigsegg has had 4 or 5 laps to be able to develop and overtake an opportunity. In the bits I've seen, he's been trying to overtake at a couple wrong places. You know, perhaps because he felt like the opportunity is a come up. But I'd say he might have fumbled this race, because I think he almost certainly could have taken a second place, because he feels like to me he's got the pace on J212. It's just those few turns that he doesn't have quite right.
And they're making all the difference.
Yeah, definitely. Well, like I said, you can be pretty slow through all those turns in the middle, but if you're much better than that one turn, it won't, you know, you'll be able to save loads of time, because it's, you know, a good 40% of the track. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's massive, isn't it?
Yeah. So like, if you're listening to, so it looks like Koenigsegg is going to have another attack here. Again, if it was me advising him, don't attack here. Just try and use the slipstream, get as close as you can. Not close enough that you're going to hit him with your braking. So yeah, he did the right thing there. He moved his line a little bit to the outside in case he overbroke, but then he moved back behind him when he knew he was not going to hit him behind. And he's kept his gap
a little slower
nice.
off the accelerator, onto the accelerator there.
Definitely. And look, it felt. I don't know if he's trying to get a better line or if he's actually trying to attack there. And it actually got a little bit of contact with him there, and actually forced J212 wide. Which, if I was J212, I would not be happy about that. Especially going through the last lap and how well he has defended this. If it was me,
speed on this now, by the looks of it,
and it looks like he's going to get
track again.
Yeah, big. He's going to get himself a penalty there. Nice big 1 second penalty. And if I was J212, I would not be too happy at the moment. And it looks like he's going to.
This game is a bit rage-inducing, isn't it?
It can be, yeah, it can be, especially when it's a thing like that where. Maybe it might even be that J212 won't even realise that he got. Sometimes you don't realise that you've taken a hit from back. He might have just thought that he was over braking. So, be interesting to see if he ever comes back and sees through this. That I would personally, if I was keeping an eye on this match, I'd enforce a penalty onto Koenigsegg and actually give the second place a position to J212 because it wasn't a clean overtake, especially on the last lap. But you know. It's not my league, mate.
It's not my business.
It's not my business, is it? I'm not the ref. I'm but a simple commentator.
Yeah, we're not snitches here, though.
No. So let's see what's going on behind. Is anything going on? Someone's just stopped completely.
Gary's parked.
Just having a sleep. He's pulled up for a Greg's. He's actually left before the end of the race, so Matt, by a default, goes up one place.
Well done, Matt. We always believed in you.
Yeah, always cheering from you. So Donald he's actually managed to work on this gap between himself and Mirko, brought it down to about 2 seconds, but not enough to really hit this. And it looks like J212 is fallen really far behind Koenigsegg. Yeah. So it looks like we know where everyone is going to finish, but we're going to jump on board with Fab as he rightly wins this race by a long way. We weren't on board with Fab much because there's not quite.
We didn't see you do it.
Not much. Yeah, not much to watch. Koenigsegg is now going to come in and take second place along with MRT J212. Like I said, if I would certainly go back and review that hit off that J212 got for Koenigsegg to get the win. And I wonder if that will be reviewed and things will be changed, or whether or not it was not even noticed. And Donald comes around now to take fifth, leaving Matt, who is still somewhere behind, to come round and finish off this race
just
for
doing
us
his thing
in sixth place. So yeah, it's been a fairly interesting race, and like I said, I'm still surprised at times the people on this in the series can get a little bit, as Al highlighted, and yourself as well, quite aggressive at times.
Like, is that maybe reflective of the leagues they're going to be going into, and they're just
maybe it could well be that, but you'd think a lot of these private leagues are policed pretty well. So they, and you've got the replay system to be able to submit things afterwards. Certainly, if I was doing a league, that's the way I'd be having a look at this. But those are the positions as they are now, and it looks like we certainly can say that Fab has won it. In my mind, a J212 should have come in second place, and hopefully that will be reviewed, and then a Koenigsegg should be coming in third. But that is the end of the race. So let's congratulate everyone, tell them they had a good race.
What a nice guy.
Even though they don't speak my language, I'm still communicating with them. Great. Well, thoughts on the race then, Paddy?
Good. Not quite as exciting at the end as the last one, where we had the last track overtake. I think most of it was the decision was pretty much made in terms of who was going to win this race very, very early on. Once Fab got away and no one could get near him. But it was a nice little fight for second and third. We'll see if there's anyone throws any toys out the prom.
Yeah, I mean, if it was, like I said, JT12 might not have realised he was pushed at the end there. Yeah. Sometimes he might just thought you got a bad line, because sometimes you can't quite tell that you've been pushed. But that is it. That is the end of the stream. So I am going to call it an end there. But thank you everyone for watching the race, and I hope you enjoyed it. But I've been ArbieG, and he's been Paddy/EchoWolf, and we'll catch you for the next race in the series. All right, guys. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.